Hey everyone, the Game Piece here, and welcome to the next competitive analysis video on Temtem. This series is going to be going in depth on what TV builds you should be using, what moves you should use, and overall how you should be using a certain Temtem. So today we're going to be going in depth on Anahir, so let's get into it everyone. Anahir is a fire and crystal type Temtem. After completing some story segments, you are going to be able to capture this Anahir. Now with Anahir's typing, it's going to take super effective damage from water, earth, and melee type attacks. But it's going to be strong going up against mental types, electric, nature, and crystal types. Now let's take a look at Anahir's stats. Anahir has some of the highest base defenses for both defense and special defense in the game. However, its other stats are pretty average overall. It has base 50 attack along with base 50 special attack. Its speed is very low overall along with its stamina cost, and its HP is pretty average on the grand scheme of things too. So Anahir is definitely more of a wall Temtem. It's going to be tanking hits rather than dishing them out more so. However, you do have options to make Anahir more powerful, which I will get into. Now, Anahir is kind of an interesting example with in-game traits. Some of the Temtem in the game have negative traits that don't really have any sort of positive benefit to it, and Anahir unfortunately suffers from that. Now, Anahir is capable of having one of two different traits. Its first one being trauma, which when hit with a physical type technique, it will lower its defense by 1 stage, and when hit by a special type technique, it will lower its special defense by 1 stage. Now, trauma is not the most beneficial trait to have on Anahir. You want to have those defenses intact on Anahir and not worry about getting hit by any sort of attacks like that, which will lower your survivability. The other trait that Anahir is capable of having is Flawed Crystal. Now, Flawed Crystal, whenever Anahir is attacked by a mental, toxic, or electric technique, it will increase its damage taken by 50%. Now, this is also not the most beneficial trait to have, but this is the lesser of two evils. Flawed Crystal is not going to have that permanent effect of lowering defenses and special defenses for every move on the whole. Flawed Crystal is only going to take effect, like I said, with mental, toxic, and electric techniques, and there isn't really a whole lot of electric moves that you're going to have to worry about in the game thus far, and even mental moves, they're pretty far and few in between. Toxic is really the only thing you're going to have to really look after, but this trait is definitely something to keep in mind if you're using an Anahir. Now, you may be wondering what moves should you be running on your Anahir. Well, I'm going to go over some of the more notable moves that Anahir has. The first one, of course, being Heat Up. Heat Up is a buffing move that you will be able to use on the first turn. It has no holds. However, its stamina cost is 23, so it's pretty significant. You will, however, be able to boost your attack by 2 stages through using this move. This will allow Anahir to double its attack essentially and start dishing out some pretty good damage with some high defenses to boot as well to start tanking hits. The next move I want to go over is Meteor Swarm. Meteor Swarm is a move that has a synergy effect with another fire type Temtem. If you use it with another fire Temtem, the opposing team, in addition to all taking damage, will all get 1 turn of burn applied to it. So this is pretty good if you want to wear down the opponent's team even more, and you have the option also of doing double Meteor Swarms if you pair it up with another fire Temtem that is capable of learning this move. The last move that I want to go over is called Chains Hit. Now, Chains Hit is 110 base power neutral move, one of the better moves that Anahir is capable of receiving, honestly, because it doesn't have any holds required to use it. Chain Hits is really beneficial because you're going to be able to use it on turn 1 rather than wait another turn to use Meteor Swarm or Crystal Bite, and you will also be able to heat up if you want to go for that option as well. Now, who should you pair Anahir up with? Well, I mentioned Meteor Swarm earlier having a synergy with a fire type. I'm going to recommend you pairing it up with either Mastione or Raikan possibly. Those are the other two Temtems that are capable of learning Meteor Swarm, and having that synergy along with having them both be able to use the Meteor Swarm and having that hit both Temtems on the opposing side of the field is going to be pretty beneficial for you. You're going to be able to get a lot of damage off in a single turn. The only thing to keep in mind with Meteor Swarm is it does have 1 hold on it, so you're not going to be able to spam it time and time over. You're going to have to wait 1 turn in between uses. Meteor Swarm also does have a high stamina cost of 25, meaning that it's going to wear down the stamina of your Temtem pretty quickly, so that's important to keep in mind when you are using this strategy. Another Temtem that you have an option to pairing with Anahir is Kinu. Kinu, I found, is really beneficial to pair with Anahir if you are sending it out before it sets up with its Heat Up ability. You are going to be able to boost its defenses with that Protector trait on Kinu, as well as further increase its defenses with Stonewall and heal it up with Revitalize. So Kinu is definitely a good pairing option for Anahir once you get it set up, or if you are trying to initially set it up. So now I want to go over a moveset that I've come up with for Anahir. Anahir unfortunately suffers from not having the biggest move pool. It doesn't even get any egg moves at all, so really you're stuck with what it learns from leveling up, which is not a totally bad thing. It does get access to some pretty good moves, but let's get into this build. build here. The trait that I went with Anahir on this set is Flawed Crystal. Obviously you don't want that trauma trait that's going to be lowering your survivability overall. I have Heat Up, Chains Hit, Meteor Swarm, and Crystal Bite, and the gear item being Sweatband. Heat Up is going to take a big chunk out of your stamina, so the Sweatband is going to be able to recover some of that in the long run, and then you're going to be able to sit there and potentially try to start sweeping with Meteor Swarm or Crystal Bite, being able to use that after the turn 1 Heat Up, or you can go with the Chains Hit if you need to use that as an attacking option on the turn 1. The build I have, you can look at below. This is an optimized build. The 495 HP, 2 stamina for 1 point in stamina, 500 attack is necessary to max it out, and 3 defense TV points for 1 extra point in defense. Now this Anahir is pretty much the only set that Anahir is capable of running at the moment. You do have an option of maybe doing something a little bit different if you want to add in Rampage over Chains Hit, but really Anahir is pretty one note as it stands right now, which is kind of unfortunate for it because people are going to be able to predict it pretty well. However, I've had some success with this Anahir being able to team it up with another Fire Temp like I said, and unleashing really strong Meteor Swarms onto that opposing enemy team. So definitely don't think that Anahir is bad because of its one node ability. There's other Temtem that are like that, like Ukama, and they still exceed in the competitive scene. So definitely don't let that hinder you from using Anahir. Now, what Temtem are you going to need to watch out for when using Anahir? Obviously, anything with Earth type attacks or melee attacks or water attacks are going to be things to avoid. Things like Psypat, Gialis, Volcrane, Mudrid with the Earth type moves. Those are all going to be things that you're going to have to avoid. Unfortunately, Anahir is very slow, so pairing up Anahir with something like a Bamboozler might be actually more beneficial for you in this scenario if you are trying to counter something like Mudrid or Gialis with the Meteor Swarm. Overall, its defenses are very good, but you do need to be aware that these things are going to be heavy threats for Anahir, especially Gialis and Psypat, who are capable of hard countering Anahir. So on the grand scheme of things, I'm going to be placing Anahir on the B tier. So overall, I do think that Anahir is a very solid Temtem that has very good defenses. Unfortunately, it suffers from the ×4 Earth weakness and has very slow speed, which means it's going to have to be aware of those Earth type moves that are going to be coming in to take it out. I'm hoping that maybe they'll add in a gear item like the balloon and Pokemon that allows it to have an immunity to Earth type, because that would absolutely be a huge benefit to this Temtem. But I guess we'll see overall as time goes on what new tricks get added and what this Temtem can do in the future. I hope that this video helped you out though, and that you learned something about Anahir and how to use it. If there's any Temtem that you want me to cover next specifically, please let me know in the comments, or if you have any other suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I really appreciate you guys watching the video. Feel free to leave a like if you liked this, and be sure to subscribe for more Temtem guides and content like this in the future. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a good weekend.